Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day because we have a great show planned for you where it's Tuesday. It's not the first Tuesday, second Tuesday, but Computer America, of course, reserves all the rights to, I guess, commandeer any Tuesday of the month and make it Gamer Tuesday. So that is what we're doing today. We are doing Gamer Tuesday with none other than our gaming correspondent, Cory Galliher. So we're going to bring him on in just a moment. But in the meantime, everyone, welcome into the program. Let's see. So first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything for today's show, including the show notes, anything that we talk about, any articles, any videos, anything like that. You can find it at computeramerica.com. Let's see. You can also find the live video stream also at twitch.tv/computeramerica. And last but not least, be sure to check out the, let's see, there's a chat room with that as well. But, and last but not least, be sure to check out any new articles that we have up on the site. Here in the coming week, we should have a lot more reviews coming out. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We'll let you know. But yep, just wanted to run through that real quick and go ahead and jump into our segment. So, like I said, Gamer Tuesday, Cory Galliher. Let's go ahead and introduce him if you've never heard of him. Hey, welcome into Computer America if you've never heard of him. But yeah, Cory Galliher. He is of course he is the senior games editor for Popzara Press, and he spends his day working as a journalist and technical writer, and his nights working as a crime-fighting detective. He's very good at it too. Or maybe he just plays a bunch of video games and messes around with a lot of tech while subjecting the world to his opinions on it all. He's been with Popzara since the early years of 2014. I know, seems like, honestly, 2014, that's a while ago now. That's half a decade. It's pretty crazy. And intends to stick around, meaning the nightmare might never end. Hey, Cory, welcome onto Computer America.
Hey, thanks very much. Great to be here once again.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. Yeah, and hey, it's been a little while. How have you been? Everything going well?
Yeah, everything's great. We got a lot of great games come out recently, a lot of stuff to play, a lot of fun to be had, and I've just been enjoying every bit of it.
And I couldn't agree more. Like, one of them that we're going to talk about today actually got me so motivated, and I don't know if it was just because it was free, and I was like, heck, why not? But being Apex Legends, I actually gave that one a try. Like, there's some great new games coming out, so I'm excited. Let's go ahead and start things off with, you know what? Actually, I'll throw it to you. Where do you want to start today's Gamer Tuesday?
I want to start with the recent controversy, which is kind of our thing. We talk about the latest big deal, slap in the face to consumers in the gaming industry. That's what we do, right?
Right.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
And the one I want to talk about is Metro Exodus. You've heard of it, right?
Metro, I have not actually.
Metro Exodus is the latest in a series of games about a post-apocalyptic Russia. You control a guy who lives in the metro tunnels underneath Moscow, and he fights mutants and so on and so forth. It's a little bit like Fallout. There have been 2 of these games so far, Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, and there's a third one coming out called Metro Exodus. I think that's this week, actually.
Okay.
Here's the thing. If you're playing on PC, the first 2 games were available on Steam, which is kind of the content platform of choice. You buy your games on Steam, you play your games on Steam, and so on, yeah?
Right, yeah, Steam has been dominant for a long time, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, here's the deal. Originally, we thought you could play the new one, Metro Exodus, on Steam. It was going to be released there. That's no longer the case.
And, of course, that begs the question, before you even announce where it's going to be released, who's the developer behind Metro Exodus?
Publisher? The publisher, which I think is the one we're concerned about here, the publisher is Deep Silver.
I see, and I don't even know if which, like, I guess EA, Origin, or, the other platforms. Okay, so then let's ask the question, where is it being released if it's not Steam?
Well, it's not going on Steam. It's going on the Epic Games Store, and that is a platform that you're probably familiar with. If you haven't heard of it before, you might have heard of Fortnite, which is only the biggest game in the world right now. Fortnite, which is exclusive to the Epic Games Store. You have to install this launcher and play it there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would know from, I think, in the past couple months, they've gone a step further where even like the mobile application, they've actually foregone the iTunes App Store, the Google Play Store. Like, they have leveraged Fortnite into, I guess, getting a lot of people to even realize that they even have a games launcher. So now they're bringing more games, and I guess this is where the controversy kind of kicks off.
Right, exactly. It's just kind of a question of how much of a cut the publisher gets, how much of a cut the developer gets. It's just a whole lot of economic questions that in the end boil down to the fact that if you want to play Metro Exodus, you have to install yet another launcher. And for a lot of people, this is kind of a pain point. You've got Steam for the vast majority of games. You've got Uplay for Ubisoft games, Origin for EA games. There's a Bethesda launcher, and you've got your Epic Games launcher. So all in all, if you play a lot of games, you're probably running 5 different launchers at this point. And
don't forget Blizzard Activision. Don't forget GOG.
Battle.net. Yeah, you're right. GOG. Yes, GOG, exactly.
Yeah. There's itch.io. There's of course Twitch, which has the Curse client, which you can do more. Yeah, you're starting to get as many games as you can regularly play. You're going to have as many launchers. I know that I already have like 4, and I don't play a lot of different games. So this and of course that's the reason Steam kind of took off in the first place, was that it was one repository for people to have the games, shop for new games, and just see their library. That deviation, I mean, let's ask the question of you then. The reason that just having Steam is falling out of favor seems to be that publishers don't like it. Doesn't mean that the gaming population didn't like it. This wasn't really driven by gamers or players or whatever the audience. The audience wasn't fed up with Steam. The publishers were.
Right.
Do you
exactly.
Do you think that the players are going to, I guess, kind of push back a little bit against the publishers and say, this is kind of forced upon us. We just want the simplicity. We want to play video games, and now you are taking that away from us.
I honestly think that's really hard to say. If you go on Reddit, for instance, Reddit is very against this whole Epic Games Store thing right now. They're up in arms and so on and so forth. As I always have to remind people, though, the fraction of people who play video games, care enough about playing video games to post on Reddit, share these opinions, that is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a population. It's a very, very, very tiny number. If everybody who used Reddit boycotted Metro Exodus, didn't buy it, it would not make a tiny dent in the number of sales the game will probably have. So what it comes down to is, something that I tend to say a lot also is the people who make decisions about video games, the big sweeping decisions about video games, people who make the laws relating to video games, people who make policy related to games, people who make sales decisions about games, are pretty much never the people who play them. the concern is not really, is this convenient for you, the player? There's obviously financial decisions in mind. I mean, or rather at hand. We don't really know what the details are. Just that you could originally get the game on Steam. Now you cannot. Have to get on the Epic Games Store.
Well, but some of the details are, of course, known because Steam is a well-known entity. They haven't changed since the beginning, just like the iTunes Store and the Google Play Store. They take. I know iTunes takes like a 30% cut. I think Steam recently dropped because of this. Steam actually dropped their commission that they get by, I want to say, like from 30 to like 18%. I think that the gaming platforms, they know that they don't have a monopoly, and to put your game out there, like I think the reason that Steam kind of gained a lot of steam to begin with was because, 10, 15 years ago, it was pretty hard to publish, a game. It was hard for people to put a game on the internet and have people download it, know about it, things like that. That's not the case anymore, especially for things like Epic, who have plenty of publicity. They have the user base. But even though it's become a lot simpler, Steam hasn't lowered their commission whatsoever, to make that, to reflect that. So it's good. I mean, competition's always good, but at the same time, I don't think you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm glad that Steam dropped their commission, and I'm hoping they push it down a little bit further so that, they say, hey, yeah, we're giving up 15%, but we're getting this massive platform, which Steam has a lot of other metrics that, besides just sales and the ease of download, Steam has a lot of other things that make it a good platform, including the community and and talking with friends and places like that. I mean, if you could just speak to it yourself, I mean, whenever you play with your friends, do you have to go hunting through your different game clients, the different ecosystems, looking for them and seeing if, hey, are you on anything?
So I tend to organize my gaming through Discord, meaning that, we talk about what we want to play first, and then, we know where to play it, so we just go on that service and play it there. Regarding what you're saying about commissions and such, I have a pretty unpopular opinion about this kind of thing, and that is the fact that the amount of I don't think anything matters less to me than the amount of money a developer or publisher makes in a game. I think what matters is if they make a good game and if it is convenient to play. Whatever it takes to make that happen, wonderful. But when it comes down to sales and such, the bottom line is that we really don't know anything but what we're allowed to be told. So we'll hear that a game that's supposed to sell well, hey, it's selling well. I guarantee we're going to see that Anthem has sold spectacularly, regardless of actual numbers. Who knows what the actual numbers are? If any developer wants to get money for their Kickstarter, they'll say that it's really hard to be an indie developer. We can't really buy into kind of this armchair economist.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, that's the right word. We can't really buy into this kind of armchair economist idea of I'm going to watch how games sell and that's going to influence my buying decisions. What it boils down to is, hey, the Epic Games Store, it's less feature rich. There are fewer games on it. It's kind of a pain to use. This is it's a bad thing. I'm not thrilled about it. Will it stop me from buying the game? Of course not. I know that won't do anything. It just means I won't get to play the game. But do I think it's good? Probably not. Not really.
No, and I can completely understand that. I think that you're right, playing the armchair economist, like you said. It matters, but only so far as the game is still being developed, as people still play the game, and things like that. So I think with that, again, we were going to talk about Metro Exodus being exclusive to the Epic Games Store, and just to be clear, there's nothing that keeps them after the initial launch, after the game has, because much like the music industry, movie industry, so on and so forth, the initial launch is really what matters. And then the residual sales, those can go either way. There's nothing keeping, I guess, Metro Exodus from the Epic Games Store doing its initial release and then coming to other platforms. That could be something that could happen, correct?
I suppose that's possible.
Okay. Yep, there you go. So, Metro Exodus, when is that coming out, by the way? Or is it already out?
That's going to be Friday, I believe.
Okay.
Friday being, as of this recording, the 15th.
All right, so there you go. And and by the way, some of the pictures in the article and the scene reviews, pretty entertaining. So there you go. So Metro Exodus and okay, but we're more talking about the exclusivity more than the game itself. So there you go. All right, so how about with that? I think I actually just want to, if you don't mind, pivot to the game that I think has taken a lot of attention these past couple days. And there's a new article out. Let's see, this one just came out yesterday. Apex Legends, like you said, developers only want you to know what they only tell you what they want you to know. But this is still a pretty surprising milestone for a game that's only been out a week, and it's a battle royale mode of, let's see, Titanfall. I believe Titanfall 2. They took the assets, they took everything. And I'm not saying it's not polished or this was slapped together. This is a very polished game as compared to, let's say, PUBG or Fortnite or something like that. Like, it has all the assets. It's it's a very well thought out game. But after only a week of sales, it shows that the battle royale fever has not come to an end. And I say sales, it's a free game. Apex Legends, Corey, I'm going to ask if you've played it, but I also want you to react to the fact that it now boasts over 25 million players in a single week with, as they say, well over 2 million concurrent players, which is huge.
So yes, I have played it. It's a very well made, very enjoyable game. The reason, if you ask me, as to why it's doing so well is that, of course, it's free. We can say the same for Fortnite. Fortnite doesn't cost anything to start. In fact, you don't really gain anything by paying for Fortnite except for cosmetics. So it's the same thing with Apex Legends. When you start the game, you can pick any but two of the characters. You can earn those characters in-game with in-game money, and you are on the same level as anybody else. Anybody can download Apex Legends, get into the game, start playing, boom, there you go. That's a recipe for success no matter what you do.
Yep. Yeah. And I found myself the same way. Like, I found myself a little surprised that they were locking champions or heroes or legends, behind a paywall. But you're right. You can earn the currency in game. It would take you a couple hours. And judging by some of my friends and just what I've seen online, you're going to be spending hours on this game regardless. Like, you're going to have a lot of fun playing it. And 25 million players. You're right. Free definitely has a lot to it. But this is, I think, kind of indicative of what happened with Fortnite as well. Fortnite was this tower defense builder, first-person shooter game or third-person shooter video game that wasn't really that successful. That came out with a BR to kind of emulate things like DayZ, H1Z1, and PUBG, and it gave a second life and really, took a game that wasn't in the spotlight, and suddenly it was the more popular of the two. I think that these player numbers far surpass Titanfall 2 in their sales numbers. And, of course you have to pay for it and things like that, but it shows that there's a lot to be said about taking a game that's already finished and maybe pivoting or bringing different kinds of games from the same universe. And it's pretty exciting. I'm just saying it's worked twice so far, and I'm sure that it's happened a lot more than what I'm aware of. But Apex Legends coming from Titanfall 2, very surprising.
It is, absolutely. I mean, there was some discussion a little bit before Apex Legends was announced and then released in what felt like the same day.
Yeah.
That this might have been Titanfall 3. That's not the case. I think we've seen that actually some news that Titanfall 3 isn't really a thing right now, which is interesting. Not surprising, really, given that I don't think Titanfall 2, despite being a great game, really did that well.
I don't think it did either, but I did hear those who did play it, it was really, really fun. So
it was a pretty solid game, absolutely. But what does tend to do well is following the fad of the time, which right now is Battle Royale games thanks to Fortnite. So I'm not surprised at all that EA decided to take this Titanfall license and make a BR game based on it. Now, what does interest me, and this might interest you too if you haven't thought about it, Battlefield 5, a game that has not met sales goals, hasn't done well at all, apparently has a battle royale mode coming out before too much longer itself. So what is Apex Legends going to do to that? Like, why would they release two very similar games in such a short time?
Now, and to be clear, Battlefield is also developed by EA, and Apex Legends also by EA. So they're both coming out with Battle Royale. You're right. That seems to be, kind of the only thing I can think of is that EA itself didn't think Apex Legends was going to be as successful as it was. And really, I don't think anyone could have predicted what Apex Legends, the numbers that they're putting up right now.
I mean, again, I think if we had had the details from the start, knowing that it would be a free game, that it would encourage team play, which is big right now. A lot of people use Discord, Skype, and such to play together. Mm-hmm. I think we might have been able to predict that would have done well, but I think you could be right in that maybe we wouldn't have known quite. It might not have been obvious that it would have done quite this well.
And really, again, 2 million, and this is only after a week, and there really wasn't that much advertising for this. Like, there was no TV campaign. There was a lot on like things like Twitch, and I'm sure that there were online banner ads and things like that. But overall, like you said, it was almost announced, and like no one knew about it, and then everyone was playing it, and we're gonna see and on things on like videos for YouTube and platforms like Twitch, we see it kind of take a lot of the similar audience of Fortnite. I'm not saying, and the one thing I will never say is something is a something killer. Like, I'm not saying that Apex Legends is a Fortnite killer. I'm saying that they share the same space, they are both free, and the audience are going to be shared. I'm not saying that that Fortnite will never regain those players that are currently playing Apex Legends. No, they're both free. People are free to play what they want to play. But to me, this really shows that people are open. People are open to new games. It's not like they are fervent and they are, PlayStation versus Xbox. No, it's whatever game is accessible and fun to play, more to your point, is what they're going to play. So if that's not currently Fortnite, then it's not currently Fortnite. I'm not saying it's never again Fortnite, but people, there's not that built-in, camps of people that will only play Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think when we talk about things being a killer of something else, it's a simple physical fact. You can really usually only play one game at a time. So, as you say, gamers that are playing gamers, I hate that word. People who play games who are playing Apex Legends right now are physically not capable of also playing Fortnite unless they are amazing, which I really don't know if that many people are. But yeah, what it's going to come down to is this happens a lot. We will see a game come out. It'll do really well at first. Does it have lasting power? Hard to say. We'll have to see.
And that's really the key point to it. I think that Apex Legends does some things that that aren't just like Fortnite ripoffs, and primarily, I really enjoy a game called Overwatch. It's by Activision Blizzard, and Overwatch has your different champions, and they have different abilities. Same thing in Apex Legends. They have different abilities. They you choose from like 8 different ones. Currently, I think 8 or 10. And, each one of them does something different. They add a new flavor of the game. If you run into a squad of 3, by the way, not a squad of 4 as is per usual, but a squad of 3, if you run into them, you really have to... a lot of it does come down to gunplay. How good of a shooter are you? What decisions you make? How do you rotate? Most of the usual battle royale elements. But then you also have to realize: do they have a blood hunter? A blood hunter. Do they have a bloodhound? Do they have a lifeline? And you have to realize what their team comp is, and you have to kind of react to that way to it. So. To me, it adds a little bit more personality to it, where in Fortnite, everyone can build, everyone can do the same thing. In Apex Legends, currently there's no solo queue, there's only team play. You have to build a team comp, everyone has their role within the team, and it adds another little element of randomness to it. So I just think, and again, this is just speaking to the game itself. Apex Legends is fun. I was having a lot, what about you? Like which champion did you kind of or legend. Which legend did you kind of gravitate to? How do you think about the abilities? I mean, what do you think? What do you think about the gameplay itself?
So I tend to play a lot of Gibraltar because I like his shield. If you're not familiar with the game, when you aim down sights with Gibraltar, he puts up a shield in front of himself, lets you block shots directed at your face. Very helpful. The game is good. As far as longevity goes, one thing that concerns me about it is the fact that it really does require squads of 3. You cannot play by yourself effectively.
Yeah.
So if you don't have 3 people, you're playing with randos. I have never found that to be especially fulfilling, and it's definitely not fulfilling here, at least in my eyes. When you're playing with friends, it's a good time. But as people start to kind of die off from the game, if a squad loses a person, that entire squad might fall apart. You need 3 people. Otherwise, you got a random person who may or may not actually help you. And if 2 of your friends quit, well, there you go. You're probably going to quit too. A game that really relies on you having a pre-made group like this may have trouble sticking around.
Now, one thing that'll counter that, and this is something that I've seen in Fortnite, PUBG, and things like that, where if groups of friends, and I've done it too, let's say 3 or 4 people queue up and they're all friends, and maybe towards the beginning they get into a fight because obviously there's 100 people, 60 people, whatever, how many people in a game. 2 people do well, one of them gets shot in the face, and the whole team might actually back out because they don't want to spend 20 minutes with one person sitting there twiddling their thumbs and the other 2 playing a game where they're at a clear disadvantage. They'll leave and then they'll join a new game and do that kind of thing. One thing I really like about Apex Legends is that if you are diligent enough, if you grab your fallen comrade's banner, or if you revive them, and they give you plenty of tools to make sure that you don't get, taken out too quickly, you can revive them. So if you get killed, that's not the end of the game. If there's enough cooperation there, it's not the end of that game, and I really like that. I hope that we see that in other battle royales, where it's not just even like the down and revive mechanic, but also the respawn mechanic. Because, like you said, team comp matters, and you don't want to spend half a game down a player. So at least they give you tools to kind of recover and make that game still, I guess, kind of continue.
Certainly, it does feel like I'm always the first one to get shot down and killed whenever I'm playing. So yes, I'm a big fan of that mechanic myself. I don't know if we'll see it elsewhere, but I do think we're going to see things like the hero concept maybe used in other games, because that's definitely a nice addition to this sort of genre.
Yeah, and that's another point, is that competition. I think that there were a slew of updates to Fortnite about the day after Apex Legends came out. They came out with I think they went on Reddit and they went to the Fortnite subreddit and they were like, okay, what is everyone complaining about? They're complaining about airplanes, rockets, and this kind of gun. And they just, and of course like building or something like that. And they just released an update the day after Apex Legends came out addressing everyone's vocal concerns. And they're like, oh, so that's what competition does. Competition drives reaction to community and trying to make your game as good as possible. So and again, that's kind of like a fan theory about the update, but the timing was very suspicious. That competition finally came out for Fortnite, and yeah, they reacted very swiftly with some new updates. So
bringing it back to something we were talking about with our previous topic, competition is a great thing if it has tangible benefits to the people who are, actually playing the game. With something like the Epic Games Store, you're still paying $60 for Metro Exodus. You would have paid the same thing on Steam. You're not really getting anything out of the Epic Games Store thing except for, having to open a different launcher that's a little bit harder to use. With this, however, you've got 2 games that are trying to occupy the same niche, and they do have to compete against one another to kind of get as many players as possible. And as a result, both games get better. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, more to your point, the whole thing with competition, things getting better, you're right. I don't think that anyone is really innovating on what Steam, the dominance that Steam has. No, they're just trying to leverage their exclusivity to, I guess, get in on Steam's action. And like you said, for players, that's not really going to make too much of a difference. So there's that. We're going to go to break here in about a minute. So Corey, I think when we come back, looking at our list of topics, and I've been looking for some more, so I might surprise you with some. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the Steam Lunar New Year sale. I hope it's still going on, because I know these are topics for a little while ago. Let's see. So ends. Oh no. I'm sorry, everyone. That ended yesterday. So we probably won't talk about that. So we're going to talk about Anthem and more when we come back. So let's see what's going on. Oh, wait. Oh, hey, there we go. There's a problem. 1 second, folks. So you should be hearing music in the background, and you're going to hear that in just about... There we go. Okay, everyone. So we'll be right back. Computer America, more Cory Galliher, more Popzara, more gaming news. And I don't know why, Corey, you've made me hate the word gamer. More gaming news and more everyone. Stay tuned. More Computer America right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And everyone, if you're just joining us, welcome into the show. If you missed any part of our conversation so far, feel free to check us out wherever podcasts are heard. That will have today's show in its entirety. There we go. Sorry. That will have today's show in its entirety rebroadcast. And you can tune in for the whole thing. And it's just a great way to catch Computer America if you can't catch us live here on the radio. So in the meantime, we continue on. It is Gamer Tuesday. We have Cory Galliher, Popzara magazine. And we are, we're just talking video games. And just finishing up with Apex Legends and that whole thing. It's an exciting time, and like I said, I don't really catch a lot of new games and try to catch when all the hype is building. But I would definitely recommend Apex Legends. It's you don't lose anything for playing it. It's free. You do have to download the it's available through the Origin launcher, so that's EA. Speaking of our thing, but other than that, it's actually a lot of fun. So there's that one. And Corey, like I said, these topics, they were, meant for last week. So Steam Lunar New Year sale, unfortunately missed it, but hopefully everyone out there was able to get some good games on sale. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about our last video game, and although we may find another, because I think like the Division 2 is coming out with an expansion as well, so we might talk about that. But everyone, and by the way, someone in the chat room, no, wrong one. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and bring Cory back on, and Anthem. Give us a rundown, if you will, because Anthem, it's something that was highly anticipated, but at the same time, just the general sense that I've been getting from from online discussions, and admittedly, online discussions can be, quite negative compared to, I guess, the actual sentiment out there. But Anthem was like this game that's like, people were really excited about it, and then they're like, oh no, it's going to turn into like this kind of generic, maybe pay to win kind of thing. Like, it seems like everyone's cautiously optimistic, but it could quickly tip either way when it comes to Anthem.
So you touched on a few topics there. We'll go ahead and start with the first one, which is what is Anthem? If you've played Destiny, you kind of have the idea. Anthem is kind of a loot and shoot game where you fight enemies, you pick up better guns and armor, you equip those to improve your stats and so on. Kind of an action shooter RPG sort of thing. The interesting part of Anthem is that you are wearing what amounts to an Iron Man suit. You can fly, you can go up, you can go down, you can hover, you can go on water. It's a lot of mobility. It's a lot of fun. I've played the demo. I think it's a great time. Your second point, why are people cautiously optimistic about Anthem? That would be because in 2019, there is a lot of money in being the first person to doomsay something that comes out and is not what we expected. We saw this back with Mass Effect Andromeda, back when that came out. A lot of people were really hyped for it to be bad. Lo and behold, when it's not perfect, people get a lot of clicks, they get a lot of ad money, they get paid. You'll see this happen often too. Like the Division 2 you mentioned a little bit ago, Metro Exodus. People really want to be the first ones to say that a game is going to be bad because that drives people to their YouTube channels, their Twitch channels, that makes them watch ads, that gets some revenue money. Revenue money? Ad revenue.
So you're saying that people can't be unbiased in their reviews because they're looking to be the first one. And obviously, Popzara runs a review for a lot of video games. We do reviews here on the show. I mean, being the first one to say this is bad definitely drives views. But I guess how do you pick yourself, or how do the listeners, kind of decide, well, they're positive for it, so they're a shill, or they're negative for it, they're just looking for ad revenue. Where does everyone go to get some kind of trusted source? And yeah.
I don't really know these days. Though, actually, no, I'm lying. I do know. If you want to get a trusted opinion on what a game is like, ask one of your friends. Ask one of your friends who doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Well, I'm sure that'll be hard to find, but
Yes.
but there you go, and of course, I think Popzara does a very good job of being unbiased as well. And hey, you yourself,
or do we? No, we totally do.
Yeah, no, you guys are good. Definitely enjoy your opinion here on the show, but you're right. I mean, everyone wants to be relevant, and saying something is the best or the worst, if you pick an extreme, you are going to be more relevant to your audience, depending on which way you go about it. So that's certainly a thing. Let's talk again about Anthem. You played the demo. I recall this one being like really kind of a mashup of different genres. I think this was supposed to be like an MMO, first-person shooter kind of deal with some really cool gameplay. Talk about the demo. How, you said that you enjoyed it. What were some of the defining elements of the gameplay?
The biggest element of Anthem that makes me like it more than Destiny is the mobility, like I mentioned. You can fly, you can jet around. It's just a lot of fun to move around in the world. Anthem also goes for more of a bombastic approach. Destiny's big thing was minimalism. Destiny has a certain aesthetic that it really goes for. It goes for tiny little explosions. Things that would be regular spells in most games are supers in Destiny. Like, I think shooting a big fireball is a super. It takes a solid several minutes to charge that up.
Yeah.
Anthem, you're doing that all the time. You're just throwing that crap around like it's nothing. It's great. Rather than trying to kind of ration your fun, which is how Destiny feels to me, Anthem just goes all out right from the start. It feels really good to play. The shooting feels great. The flight and mobility feels great. The supers feel great. It's just what I played with the demo, I really enjoyed.
Yep, and we're if anyone out there's watching the video portion, we are watching some of the gameplay here, and they have here different heroes and champions, things like that. But yeah, I think overall it blends the good parts where you have character progression, things like that, the mobility. They have a storyline driven narrative. I remember seeing some gameplay of you. Kind of like any kind of RPG element, you have characters that you have to make decisions with, and you have to help them and things like that. I mean, there's the RPG element, there's the first-person shooter element, there's the MMO where you're going to be playing with different people eventually. I mean, that's all well and good. It's just, and I think I saw an article here, talking about again Apex Legends and actually. Anthem, because also by EA, more so than just the Battlefield 5, they're also saying that they are shooting themselves in the foot with that. I mean, do you think EA is just the whole first-person shooter thing, regardless of whether or not it's an RPG, an MMO, or a BR, a battle royale? Do you think that EA is just kind of going too much into this one? Like, they're not diversifying. Is it because first-person shooters are just kind of what's in right now?
I don't know if I necessarily say that. EA is not really a monolithic entity. It has several different developers. With Anthem, what we're seeing is essentially a new take on the Mass Effect formula. When you play it, you'll find that it plays a lot like a more refined version of the Mass Effect games. So I don't. Okay. I would call it coincidence almost. I would say that, hey, Apex Legends comes out, it's a hit. It also happens to be a shooter. Anthem is coming out, also happens to be a shooter.
Okay, yeah, and that's completely fair because I know the Anthem has been in development. I think we saw like the first teaser for it back in I want to say 2016 E3. It's been an E3 regular, and yeah, so that makes perfect sense. So Supers, the gameplay is really good. Hopefully, it continues to be kind of snappy. The visuals look very, very good. It will stress, I think, most computers to their nth degree, and yeah, it looks like a really fun game. So there's Anthem. I think a lot of people, again, are optimistic, but hey, there's also a lot of hate for E3, or E3, for EA itself. But I think I'm going to be like everyone and just have a wait and see attitude. So there's that one. We have a couple more games that we can kind of touch on real quick. First one is The Division 2. I believe you've mentioned that you've played The Division before and The Division 2. And let's see. And I think this is not an expansion to The Division, but this is actually a completely separate, I guess kind of sequel. The Division 2 open... or is this closed or open beta? Open beta. There we go. Starts March 1st. Are you excited about The Division 2? Because the first one actually did pretty well. I think as far as RPGs and MMORPGs that The Division tried, a lot of people got into it. It had that longevity, but I think a lot of people are also looking forward to, I guess, kind of like it feels like a lot of people got into the Division late. Like the initial release wasn't that good, but then its extended support was actually very good. So I think a lot of people are looking forward to the second one to get kind of like a clean slate, a fresh start, and get in on it from the beginning.
So I'm going to be honest, I'm a little biased in favor of The Division 2 because it's set in Washington, D.C., which is basically where I live. I'm familiar with the map. I've seen the screenshots. It's all very familiar to me. That's really exciting. Like, I have to admit, I even enjoyed the absolutely terrible Overkill's The Walking Dead a tiny bit because that was also set in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we have any bias, it's definitely for D.C. and the Baltimore area. But I played the first Division, thought it was great at first, thought it was really great as time went on. They kept adding more and more and more and more to it. That was wonderful. The DLC expanded the game, added in what amounts to a battle royale mode, randomly generated dungeons, just really expanded on the scope of the game. With the new one looks fantastic. They had a private beta last weekend. I didn't get a chance to play it, unfortunately, but from what I can tell, it looks good.
That's exactly what we want to hear. And although I won't say that it's this hasn't ever happened before, you mentioned Destiny. It felt like the same way, and I hope that the Division doesn't do what Destiny does wrong, which is like the first Destiny, I didn't get into the first Destiny until like the Taken King, so like 2 or 3 expansions later, and I played that, and like I heard, it's really shallow, it's not that much gameplay, it's kind of bleh, and I got into Destiny with the Taken King, and I was like, this is a really fun and awesome game, but it was that extended support, it was the continued expansions and content releases that gave it depth and made it good. And then Destiny 2 came out. They did away with a lot of the systems, and a lot of the things that were in the first one with the expansions weren't in the second one at launch. And it really turned a lot of people off. It felt like a regression in terms of the available features. So and of course, Destiny 2, if you ask a lot of people now, they've had a couple of expansions. I think they've had like 2 expansions, and people are like, oh no, it's a really fun game. But they ruined it by not doing it at release and instead doing it, 6 months, a year down the road. I'm hoping the Division 2 does the same thing, or doesn't do the same thing, where what is working well in the Division 1 is available at launch in Division 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We really just have to wait and see how it turns out. I hope that they don't cut too much from the first game for the second one, because again, the first game was just out of control. All the expansions, things that they added, it was a whole different game when it came down to it. Do I think that the Division 2 is going to be quite as big when it releases? Probably not. But I think we'll see some improvement, certainly.
Okay, yep, there you go. And again, the reason we bring that up is that if you are interested, the Division 2 open beta should be available to everyone. I don't think you have to pre-order or anything. Let's see, a public beta. So yeah, that'd be available to everyone March 1st through March 4th, which would be well before our next Gamer Tuesday. So just wanted to let everyone know. Always fun to play those free open betas. So there's that one, and looking through some of the other topics that we have here, let's talk about, if you don't mind, there has been some stories from PlayStation, and this is a topic that comes up every now and again. It's probably a fan favorite. And this has to do, and we're going to pause that right quick. GameSpot, this is their article, but we're just going to kind of draw from it for inspiration. And so this is by Eddie McCutch. Eddie McCutch, there we go. Sorry about that. GameSpot, and talking about PlayStation boss predicts post-console world. And I know the death of console, it's, like I said, it's probably one of the most popular topics that we talk about here. But they had an interview where, they're talking about, maybe the idea of the console going away. We saw some recent executive shifting at PlayStation, where they were focusing more on the PlayStation Network and, of course, PlayStation exclusives, and not so much on iterations of hardware. There was a time, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, Corey, I'm sure you remember, when Microsoft had 2 or 3 consoles in development going at once. PlayStation had a lot of hardware going at once. And we don't see that much anymore. The Xbox One X is out, the PlayStation 4 Pro is out, and there's been some rumors. I think last time we talked about the rumors of PlayStation 5, but overall the focus on hardware seems to have shifted to a focus on networks, exclusivity, and what's available through your ecosystem. What do you think about the possibility of, and I'm just saying PlayStation, and really this is important for PlayStation, because they are the dominant console right now. They are the leaders. And if the leaders are saying, hey, people aren't really going to be focusing on, people are not going to be focusing on the console as much as they are the network. And what do you think about PlayStation possibly, looking to the end of a console and the beginning of a service?
I don't know. It's very hard to say. We hear this exact kind of thing every few years these days. We're moving into a post-console world. Everything's going to be on the cloud. We're going to have cross-play between everything. There'll be only one platform. You hear it so often that it's really hard to believe, honestly. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. I know that experiments so far with things like streaming, PlayStation Now, for instance, ironically enough, is absolutely terrible. There's input lag. The graphics are pixelated and gross. There's visual lag. Unless we can see that really work perfectly,
Yeah.
then I think there's going to be room for consoles and PC gaming and such. The closest thing we've seen to what this man is talking about, I believe, was with Google's Project Stream a few months ago, where you could play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on pretty much any device at a pretty solid frame rate, and it looked pretty good. If we can make that the standard, well, honestly, better than that even. I would say if we can make something better than that the standard across everything, then maybe. I don't think we're there yet.
So the quote that has people kind of scratching their heads and, kind of theorizing about this, and I'm going to quote here, we're not little gaming ghettos that are not federated or aligned at all. We're all part of the same gaming community. We just come at it through different doorways. I think that the future will be an extension of that metaphor. Your platform is not your hideaway. It's just your doorway to all the other people you play with. And end quote. So that, and again, coming from a PlayStation executive, has a lot of people thinking, well, PlayStation, I think they know that consoles are like their place in the gaming ecosystem is not PlayStation forever. It's no, I have a PlayStation to play video games. That's why the PlayStation exists, and they're taking that to heart, which I think is a really good thing. The metaphor is very, very good. And if that means that we get maybe not non-console exclusives, because obviously you could have network exclusives. I know that a lot of games coming out for the Xbox here in the near future will also be available for Windows 10. I've heard rumors of Halo 6, whenever it comes out, will be available on PC and on Xbox. And heck, there was news that I don't think we really covered out at E3. I keep saying E3. I'm really looking forward to E3. Out at CES this year, that Razer was the first company to get permission to make a keyboard and mouse peripheral for the Xbox One. And that is surprising because there were, kind of third markets. And if you were caught using a keyboard and mouse on a console, you were banned. That gave you an unfair advantage, and it was against Xbox's terms of service. Now, Razer has permission to make a keyboard and mouse for an Xbox console. Even though they're not, like I said, even though they're not leading, I think PlayStation is reacting to what Microsoft, the vibes Microsoft's giving off, and it's that a console is just going to be a very simplified gaming PC, but overall, consoles won't matter. It's going to be your games. It's going to be your network. It's going to be the community you build. It's going to be way more important than the hardware you push.
I want to underline all of this real quick.
Sure.
With something very important that I really think we have to mention. The person we're talking about, Sean Layden, from Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios, correct?
Yes.
Which is the only console that constantly fights back about crossplay every single time?
It used to be Xbox, but no, you're right. PlayStation is the one pushing, and mainly again with Fortnite, PlayStation was the console that said, no, we do not want to do crossplay.
There you go.
And I guess your point for highlighting that, for underscoring that, is that, even though we're talking about these high ideals and the possibility of bringing consoles and people together,
correct. The fact of the matter is that even though we're talking about these great ideals and this wonderful future world where everybody can play together, the people who are stopping people from playing together right now, Sony.
Hey, no, you're absolutely not wrong. Although I will say that back to our conversation way at the beginning, things like Origin, Epic, Steam, Activision Blizzard, GOG, all these different platforms, we're also heading more into a fragmented future as well. As much as we want everyone to play together, being able to talk to one another while you play those different games may become harder and harder. And hey, really highlights the importance for something like Discord. I've really been enjoying Discord. I know that we don't talk about it much. It's an unsung hero, but Discord has been, I think, really, really something special while everyone is trying to get their own little communities. Discord's great. That's all I got to say on that. So,
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, I'm glad you agree. So with that being said, looking for anything that we might have missed, Nintendo Direct confirmed for tomorrow. I'm not sure if you wanted to talk about or kind of alert people to Nintendo Direct. You know what? Hey, we have a couple minutes. Let's talk about Nintendo Direct. I believe this is like Nintendo's chance to kind of say, oh, and actually I also want to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 that came out since we were last on. But real quick, Nintendo Direct, what is that, and should people tune into that tomorrow?
So the Nintendo Direct tomorrow, I think it's going to focus on the new Fire Emblem game, which is this kind of fantasy strategy RPG series. That's cool, but I think the important thing there is that these directs always tend to have like surprises in them, like games we weren't expecting. I would guess with this one, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Animal Crossing on the Switch.
Oh, thank goodness!
That's conjecture. I'm not saying for sure, just a thought.
I know I said that kind of sarcastically, but I know Animal Crossing is one of those games that if you're a fan of the series, then you're really excited about that. So. Animal Crossing, that's definitely good. According to this article here again from GameSpot, beyond Fire Emblem, Three Houses, which you mentioned, that's going to be that's something that they've already announced. They're also developing Yoshi's Crafted World, Luigi's Mansion 3, and of course a new core Pokemon title. So obviously there needs to be beyond the Pokemon games that came out that were kind of kind of new, red, green, yellows. They need to come out with something, beyond, something that is new to the series, not just, kind of like a rehash. So a new Pokemon game, Luigi's Mansion 3, Yoshi's Crafted World. There's definitely a lot that they could display, and looks like it's just going to be about, Nintendo video games. They're not looking to show off hardware, I don't think. It's just going to be new games.
Let's hope anyway. As far as hardware goes, we're way too early in the cycle of the Switch right now. I can see the Switch sticking around for a long time. I will say that there have been rumors of a redesigned Switch.
Yeah. We
might see that. I wouldn't call it likely, but it would be a possibility.
Yeah, and maybe just kind of something that separates, like the Switch can still be the Switch, but I think a lot of people are looking forward to maybe like a Switch Pro or something like that.
Maybe something like that. Oh, there is one thing. This first Direct ever, I believe, that does not have any 3DS games.
And of course, we should mention that 3DS, they still sell them, and I think a lot of their games still come out for them. But but like you said, this is a change where 3DS. The writing's on the wall. The writing is on the wall, correct? Like 3DS is out, the Switch is in.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm honestly like, first off, we all kind of expected this because the Switch is portable. That basically is what it boils down to. Second off, the 3D fad kind of passed, so I don't really think they feel much of a need to have that anymore. So I think it's going to be all Switch all the time soon.
Yeah, so for anyone out there who didn't actually get to play the 3DS, they did have that kind of stereoscopic or whatever kind of 3D trickery that they had, but at the same time, if I had to put a reason that it didn't catch on, I guess like supremely, the reason that not every game out there is in kind of stereoscopic 3D or whatever it is. There were some health warnings about developing eyeballs and playing too much of it at once, and it looked okay, but it didn't really add too much to the game. Like I know a lot of people who were playing video games for a long period of time on the 3DS actually turned it off because it was kind of straining to the eyes, and it wasn't conducive to playing for more than an hour or so. So yeah, 3D going away, I don't think anyone is really that like people who are upset that 3D is going away from the 3DS are the same people who are sitting in front of their 3D TV going, man, this was such a cool idea, why didn't it catch on? So not much loss there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think I might have mentioned this before. I actually I don't see out of one of my eyes, so things like 3D and VR are not really usable for me. So I'm not going to cry about the loss of 3D. Don't worry about that.
Another bias, a DC native,
there you
and
go.
of
Bias
course,
and Popzara, Washington D.C., and also we don't like 3D games, or I don't like 3D games.
Exactly, and it's just because you don't see eye to eye with them. So Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a little bit of pun work there for you. So we really just don't have that much time. We have like about a minute before we say goodbye here. So anything else that we didn't mention here? Obviously, there's a lot to gaming news that we never really cover. But Cory, I want you to have the last word. Anything else people, or if you want to highlight anything we've talked about today, or if you want people to know about something.
It's been a big couple weeks for game releases. If you like hunting style games like Monster Hunter, check out God Eater 3. Came out last weekend. Real solid game. Get it on Steam, not the Epic Game Store. But if you do like the Epic Game Store, check out Hades. It's an action RPG from people who made Bastion and Transistor. It's beautiful. A lot of fun. Coming out later this week, Metro Exodus, Far Cry New Dawn. Lots of stuff. Check it all out. Anthem, of course. Check it all out.
All right. And if people want to find more of your writings, where can they go?
They can go to Popzara, popzara.com, or TheWellReadMage, the Well-Read-Mage.com.
All right, and we'll include links to that in the show notes. Cory, another great Gamer Tuesday. Thank you for joining us, and happy that we were able to get you on. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, so everyone out there, once again, thank you to Cory, and hey, glad that you could join us here on Computer America. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. We have a great guest for you. Let's see if I can do it in like 10 seconds here. Tomorrow, Sandy Berger, our consumer electronics correspondent. Everyone, have a great one. Bye-bye.